Hello everyone, my name is Mengyuan Li, and today I'm going to do a presentation on my research paper, which is called Requirements Elicitation based on WeChat, developed by Android Studio. Nowadays, various kinds of apps have become an important part of everyone's daily life. As a result, mobile application development needs more effective techniques in specific conditions, especially in the requirements elicitation process. This paper presents some of the major techniques for eliciting functional and non-functional requirements based on WeChat, developed by Android Studio. Next, I want to introduce the paper briefly. For an Android app like WeChat, it contains various activities and transformation between activities. Theoretically speaking, if we apply normal scenario method to elicit the requirements, the number of scenarios may be infinite, because users often use various functions in one activity or between activities. As a result, this paper introduced a more effective way to elicit the requirements for such an Android app. For functional requirements, this paper presents an activity-based methodology. The core idea is that once each functional requirement in every activity has been elicited, the requirements should be complete, and no matter how long or complex a scenario is, when development team communicates with the stakeholder, they will first identify all the activities and then identify all the desired functions in every activity. For non-functional requirements, this paper presents cloud computing to elicit them. Cloud computing can provide instant file sharing, frequent meeting scheduling. For non-functional requirements, their characteristics are obvious. First, it is intangible and it is hard to communicate between development team and stakeholders because it needs some professional knowledge which stakeholders usually don't have, and the development team usually don't know what exactly stakeholders want. Second, it is hard to elicit non-functional requirements at the early stage of the development, for there not a complete program to run. In general, it is easier to elicit them when the software is about to deliver to the market. Third, unlike functional requirements, non-functional requirements are more flexible, as they need iteration frequently during the development process. When there is a new function completed, lots of new quality problems may occur, but in real life, maybe frequent meetings between development team and stakeholders can be unachievable, considering various factors, including time difference, personal or group schedule. As the discussion above, cloud computing is an appropriate way to elicit non-functional requirements. Collaboration and communication between clients and the development team is, in terms of sharing code, data, and ideas. What's more, cloud computing helps in instant file sharing, idea sharing, and discussion forums, wikis, real-time reports, and code sharing. In this case, while in the development process of WeChat, a third-party cloud computing service, such as a database, can be used to elicit the non-functional requirements. Every one of development team and the stakeholders has a terminal device connected to the database. Besides, stakeholders and developers can access or modify the requirements, data, ideas on the database whenever and wherever possible. Usually, stakeholders would get the internal version of the app and use it. However, this method also has its own limitations. First is security problems. All the data in the database is significant and should not be lost or stolen. Second is that its access is through the internet. If the electric power is down or electric cable is cut off, then the reliability of the database will get down very much. In general, people care about functional requirements more than non-functional requirements. This paper presents an activity-based methodology. At the early stage of the development, when development team communicate with stakeholders, they often are not so clear about what exactly they want. And in addition to that uncertainty, they use natural language to describe the requirements. So it is necessary to find a systematic way to elicit formal requirements which can be used by development team to start designing the software. An activity-based methodology means that we first elicit several basic activities based on the interview process. Then we categorize all the sub-requirements into those basic activities. And finally, we can create the detailed and the formal requirements based on the previous work. In this case, taking WeChat as an example, here is all the activity table and the requirements table. From the interview with stakeholders and users, we can conclude 4 basic activities, which are chatting activity, address book activity, social contact activity, and account activity. Next, all the sub-requirements can be categorized into these 4 basic activities. With all these sub-requirements, the corresponding detailed scenarios can be created. For instance, for add new friends, the user enters a friend's name in the searching box. If found it, send the adding friend message. If not, display the negative result. And later on, we can transform these scenarios into formal requirements documentations, which is understandable for developers to program. Besides, the advantages of this method is evident. It is more convenient for developers to start the development work based on all the information collected above than normal requirements elicitation method. In general method, there are thousands of different requirements which developers really don't know where to realize. And this technique categorizes all the requirements into 4 basic activities in advance and enable the developers to start the coding work in advance too. And finally, I would conclude the whole paper in 3 parts. First, in this paper, the author introduced some background information for requirements elicitation, especially for mobile applications such as WeChat in this case. For general software, an integrated requirements modeling language based on goal and problem analysis method is often used. However, mobile application has its own characteristic, which is different from normal software. During the entire life cycle of development of a mobile software, requirements and programming work are iterating all the time, even when the app has been delivered to the market. What's more, mobile application usually focus on UI development and is made of different activities. So we need to find a more effective way to elicit the requirements. For non-functional requirements, they are hard to capture precisely, as the stakeholders often lack of the tools and the professional knowledge to deliver. In this sense, developers can be more sensible to pinpoint where the quality problems are. Besides, at the early stage of the development, it is very hard to elicit non-functional requirements due to lack of a testable version of the product. So, using cloud computing to elicit non-functional requirements may be an appropriate way. Cloud computing's high speed can be used to deal with those high frequency of communication between development team and stakeholders, and instant file sharing as well. However, it has its own shortcoming, which is security problem. For functional requirements, as an Android app is made of different activities and runs between activities. So this paper presents an activity-based method for requirement elicitation. The author first elicits several basic activities based on the interview process. Then the author categorizes all the sub-requirements into those activities. And finally, we can create the detailed and formal requirements based on the previous work. And this kind of technique can enable the developers to start their programming work in advance, and as a result, enhance the efficiency of the whole software development process. So that's all. Thanks for watching.